Hey guys, today's video is a response to Book Rat Misty's book chat, and I haven't done a book chat in a while. So this month we're talking about the little design things that make a book awesome. And not just the beautiful covers, but the little things that are in a book that you appreciate or make you appreciate a book even more. And there are quite a few things that Misty already mentioned, like different fonts and things. And I just looked at my bookshelf and found some things that I really liked in a book design. For example, I have this copy of A Fraction of the Whole. And when you see it, you see all these little blue dots. But when you touch it, they're not dots. They're actual holes. So the blue of the second page shines through, and that's why they're here. And I really like that, especially when you put the connection to the title with like the fraction of the whole and the whole thing together. I also found a book in my collection where the text wasn't printed in black, and it's Blood Red Snow White. This already has this beautiful cover with the gold and the embossing. It's like when you touch it, you can feel how it's imprinted in there. I hope that's the right word. But when you open it, can you see the whole book is printed in red, and it's like a blood color and on the Snow White. So there is a connection to the title, and it's all about the Russian Revolution, and so it's a sort of bloody story. Another thing I appreciate is when you have two narrators, when you can immediately recognize who is narrating. Especially in Legend by Mary Lou, you have a good example of this. For each narrator, they took a different font. And I think in the hardcover they even took a different color. But mine just has this font for one narrator, this for the other. I hope you can see that. When it comes to fonts, I also like when you have the first letter in a book, either different or with a picture. And in Skullduggery Pleasant they do this little thing where you have the person with the first letter. And they all look like some characters of the book, which I really like, because that way you have a connection between the writing and the characters, so they merge together. And also I love that the edges are orange. That is something I really like in books, when they do something to the edges. Then I have two more books where I want to go into more detail, where the content of the book is reflected in the cover or in the design parts. One of them is, of course, the gargoyle. Who would have thought? And it has a black covers, which I really like in this connection, because it's all about fire in the beginning of the book, and it's the main character. He burns to basically crisp like twice, and so there is a connection there from the story to the burned pages. Really love that. And when we look at the cover a little closer, you can see all these tiny details. We have the gargoyle is the title, and there is this little gargoyle. And the gargoyle is a huge part of the story, because Marianne Engel carves gargoyles and she frees the gargoyles out of blocks of stone. That's sort of her intake on that. Then we have these little arrows, and in the beginning of the book, the male protagonist feels like he's attacked by flying arrows, and at some part in the story he is attacked by flying arrows. So it's a weird connection there, but you realize when you read the book that, oh my god, there are arrows on the front, and it's connected to the book, and I really love that. The same with the sentence here, it's love is as strong as death, as hard as hell, and it's just all connected to the story, like the burning heart and everything on here. Like, what else you can see? So that's how the cover is connected to the story, and you can find a lot of elements of the story in the cover again, and you only realize that after reading the book. So I really love when a cover does that, when it reflects on the story, and there are some details that you can only realize and understand properly after reading the book, and I really love that. Another thing that they do in this book, which I like, is these black prints. That's always when the snake inside his head is talking to him. And I just love that, because in the beginning I was like, what is that? Is that in a monologue? That's weird. And once you understand that, you really appreciate that it's highlighted, and you already know that there's another part of him talking. This is also something that I like in other books, when they have in a monologue or just thoughts are in italics. I like when people do that, because it doesn't confuse you and it makes you understand the story better. So I appreciate that about the design. Another book I wanted to talk about where the cover and the design of the book reflects the story in a perfect way is The Midnight Circus by Erin Morgenstern. Because, I mean, we all love the cover. It's so beautiful, this black and white and the font and the birds and the circus tent, and it's just awesome. And it also has the black burned edges. I already loved this before I actually read the book, but after reading the book I could appreciate it even more, because when you look at it, you know, this is the female character, main character of the book, this is the male main character of the book, and the circus is all black and white. There are no other colors, only black and white. So the cover already reflects that. And then we have this little red scarf, and you can already see there is something special about it when you see the cover because it stands out. And it's just part of the story. And I'm not going to tell you, no, you have to read the book yourself. But this red scarf, it's so reflected in the story, it's so important to it. And I just love that, how it is done. Also, when I take the dust cover off, the book is all shiny and red and silver. It's awesome. In the book they're referring to a clock, and this is that. I just love all the little details. Also in the book, black, white and red again. We also have different fonts. The normal chapters have this font, but the interludes have a different font for the title. And so you already know you're not part of the story, but part of the other story, the experience of visiting the circus. Also looking at the different parts of the book, we have this black and white down here. And it reminds you a little bit of a tent and of the black and white of the circus tent. And I just love and appreciate these little details in this book. It really enhanced the story for me. So these are just some books and the design elements that I could remember off the top of my head, and I really enjoyed about buying these books and having these books and reading these books. And that is something that Misty also mentioned, and it's a question of all these little design elements, these special things about the design, if they make you buy a book, like a real physical book, rather than an ebook. And for me that definitely is true, because in an ebook I cannot touch the cover, I cannot feel the texture, I cannot really appreciate the different fonts and the little things, the colors and everything. Even if it's colorful printed in an ebook, I actually don't know if they do that, but it is still a different experience to hold the book in your hand and feel the rough edges on the cover and have the burned pages on the side. And it just, for me, it would definitely be a reason always to pick up a book. And sometimes it might even be a reason to pick up a hardcover of a book instead of the paperback, which I usually prefer to read. So there you have it. Those are the little design elements I like in books and I appreciate, and that really made me like the story more, and I enjoy finding elements of the story in the design of the book. What about you? Do you have the same feeling? Participate in this book discussion. I think it's a really, really interesting one this month. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
I'm talking about the actual little details that you may not even notice, but that once you do, you appreciate, or that make the book stand out to you without you even realizing why.